Hello, Overwatch fans. My name is Spherno, and today I'm not actually joined by Pear because we're starting a brand new series on the channel, a solo channel for a solo series for myself, in which every week I will be making power rankings for the teams. This week is kind of an odd week, but it's also the perfect week to start my power rankings because, as you might be able to see from the title, we're about to start tournament season. This week starts the qualifiers for tournament for Overwatch League, which means that it's time for me to decide which teams I think will make the top and which ones will not. So let's start from the bottom, I guess. We'll work our way up, or I'll just kind of jump around where I feel I need to. So starting with my number 20 team, it can't be anybody less than the Boston Uprising because, they look sloppy, and even their star power coming from like Jerry or Myunbong isn't bringing them the success they need. They have quite possibly the worst record in the league right now, and how do you come back from that? My number 19 team is the Washington Justice, yet another team that everybody I think thought was going to be pretty good this year. There were several people that had them maybe number 5 and number 6 in their power rankings, and well, just hasn't worked out for them. They're sitting at a 7-2, I believe maybe 8-2 record, 7 or 2, 8-2, something like that. Their record is really, really low though, or 2-8. I got those mixed up, but 2-8 record, 2-7 record. It's really, really low, which just isn't fun to watch. So, your number 18 team, who do I put there? But the Toronto Defiant. They're very similar to the Justice. Their record is very similar. Their play style is very similar. They're not winning against the top teams. They're not even winning against middle of the pack teams. The only thing that maybe sets them above the Justice is the fact that they beat the Justice. They had a matchup a couple weeks ago that if the Justice had won, I'd say, yeah, they're just a little bit better. But right now, the Defiant sitting comfortably number 18. My number 17 team is a team that, even though they haven't played in a while, they just aren't doing good in the times that they have shown us. And that team is the Vancouver Titans. Number 17, a bit of a controversial pick just because the Titans are, the returning Season 2 runners-up for the championship. But they played one game, I think it might have been 2 in week 1, that they looked somewhat shaky on. Gladiators took them to a map 5, and even, I believe it's the Valiant got a map up on them. They might have played against the Valiant, I think they might have, but they didn't look so good there, and now their return to the Overwatch League, they got rolled by both the Hunters and I believe it was the Charge or Spark? I think it was the Charge. Charge and Hunters both completely rolled Vancouver. Just really disappointing to watch, but Vancouver, I'm sorry guys, until you prove that you can do better, I gotta put you at number 17. Taking a break there because the middle tier kind of gets a little bit more complicated. Bottom 4 pretty easy to decide. The top teams are also a bit easier to decide. After the showing that they put on this week, the number 1 team in the league, for me, is going to be the Shanghai Dragons. They're just really good. Sure, we haven't seen them go up against some of these other top teams yet, but we have seen them go up against the Seoul Dynasty, and the Seoul Dynasty were a team that we already thought had the contention to be number 1, and Shanghai rolled them 3-0. That might not have been the best showing for the Dynasty. We'll never know if that was them on the top of their game or not, but because the Dragons showed up and destroyed so easily, they have to take the number 1 spot. Number 2, Philadelphia Fusion. Their record doesn't lie, their players don't lie, even their map records don't lie. They are quite possibly the best Pacific team. Actually, not quite possibly. They are the best Pacific team. They've only dropped 1 game this season. And even though some of their games have looked a little shaky, the games that they don't look their best at are usually against some of the other good Pacific teams, or Atlantic teams, like the Paris Eternal and the Atlanta Reign. So, Philadelphia Fusion, great going, guys. You're sitting number 2. Number 3 is a bit of a tough pick. San Francisco, Seoul Dynasty, both of them playing to their strengths, both of them having weekends where they didn't exactly look at their best, but still overall pretty decent. But in the end, Seoul Dynasty has just played that much better, please, I just want to grab the Seoul Dynasty. Seoul Dynasty number 3. They look cohesive as a team, and the games that they're winning, they're looking really confident on. They're rolling the teams, even though it's only been 2 games. They did roll those teams, both the Gladiators and the Valiant. So I am really confident in giving Seoul Dynasty the 3rd position. Now we get into kind of middle tier teams, I guess you could say. I'm going to put a tier break there just to keep myself organized. The rest of these teams are going to be a little bit harder to rank just because we haven't seen them play against each other all that much. So what little we do know of them is based off of their own regions. But I'm going to do my best to rank them where I think they go. So number 4, directly behind the Seoul Dynasty, is going to be the Shock. Yes, they dropped the ball against the Gladiators and the Valiant, but I think they're coming back. They beat the Valiant again, twice. They beat Dallas Fuel really convincingly, so I'm really confident in saying that San Francisco deserved that 4th spot. These are your 4 teams that I think will have the best chance of making it to the finals or to the end of this tournament, getting those bonus wins. Directly beneath them, New York Excelsior, top 5 team. They didn't look too good during their first few weeks, but they're back against the Asian region, which we've already discussed. The Asian region looks really, really strong against each other, and looks like they might be really, really strong against some of these Atlantic teams. And even despite that, New York is just popping off against them. 3-0, 3-1. I'm really happy with the way they're performing. So number 5. Now we're getting into top 10 territory. These are all the teams I think play really, really well when they have to, but overall just maybe not the best compared to some of these other teams. And that's going to start us off with the Atlanta Reign. Number 6 position, Atlanta Reign. They look really strong. They took Philly to a map 5 twice. And some of these other teams that they're playing, they're looking really strong against. So, yeah, number 6. I mean, I don't think that they could beat any of these teams realistically that are sitting above them. But I think they'd have a really good chance at giving them a run for their money and beating all of these teams that are below them pretty convincingly. So right beneath them, I think I have to do everybody a bit of a favor and put the Spark and the Charge right underneath them. Not in that order. Charge go above Spark. Just because, and I'm judging this off of the games that they've played against similar teams, because playing against each other, they've kind of had a little bit of a back and forth relationship. But whenever they go up against other teams, if they go up against the same team in a weekend, the Charge usually just look a little bit more polished against those teams. Like I said, even if the Spark lose or the Charge lose, because usually, they both lose or they both win, the Charge just look a little bit better against their opponents. So that's why the Charge take number 7, Hangzhou Spark 8. My number 9 team, because we're getting into, top 10 territory, maybe a bit of an interesting pick, will be Gladiators and then Mayhem right below them. Now, here's why I say this. Gladiators are a fantastic team. Granted, we haven't seen them play in a little bit, so that's why they're below some of these other teams. They're doing really good. I just think that, there's a few things that they could be doing better. Some of their team fights don't look really strong. Anytime they go up against some of these top tier teams, sure, they're taking them the distance, but they never look like they're doing it on purpose. It always kind of looks like, oh, we managed to win this map, so nice job, guys. And that's my reasoning for putting them in the number 9 spot. Now, to round out my top 10, I'm putting Florida Mayhem. Kind of an odd pick. I know. This is... a lot of my picks are kind of odd, but Florida Mayhem were gone for a little bit. We didn't see them since like week 8 when the online play really started, and they didn't look really confident. I mean, they went up against the Atlanta Reign and got destroyed, but again, Atlanta Reign is a fairly decent team. But since then, they've come in, they beat Boston, they beat Paris, which, to be fair, neither of those teams are at their strongest, but they just looked so polished, even against those top teams. And, if they were middle tier, they may have beaten Boston or beaten Paris kind of luckily or as a fluke. But because they beat them both so convincingly, I'm going to give them the number 10 spot above a lot of these other teams. My next pick for the top 11, because we're down to like our last few teams, is going to be the Dallas Fuel. The Dallas Fuel have played really good. They're relying a lot on their star power, like Decay, Doha, that DPS duo, to make a lot of the difference for them. But regardless of how well they're playing or how they win, they're still winning games. And in the end, that's really all that matters when going into these tournaments, is that even if you don't look super, super great, at least you're playing at a higher level. And they deserve that number 11 spot simply because they're playing at that level. Right beneath them, Paris Eternal, because it's Paris Eternal. Any other week, I would have put them up here, top 5, top 10. But with the loss of HIP and then the loss of XE, they're not playing at their strongest anymore, and they're dropping a lot of games that they realistically should win. Paris lost to Florida. Paris lost to Philadelphia, and even though they took them the distance, it, again, just like I say about the Gladiators, it didn't look like they knew exactly how they did it. They just kind of did it, and that made all the difference for them. Right beneath them, Los Angeles Valiant. I know putting the Valiant again above some of these other teams, but as low as I did might not be the most accurate thing to do, and I might change it by the time I'm finished polishing out my power rankings for this week. I may move them somewhere else, because I really love the Valiant. I like watching them play, and maybe like I could put them right beneath Dallas, just because now that I think about it, Valiant are playing really, really much better than they're playing much better than Paris. And I know I shouldn't be changing these things around. It's like I have a script in front of me, but I don't. Doing this completely randomly. So, but yeah, Valiant, I should put them above Eternal, just because, again, Eternal just doesn't look strong anymore. They look like they've lost all their drive. Meanwhile, the Valiant, popping off. They lost to Dallas, they lost to the Gladiators, they lost to Shock. That's why they're where they are. But they're still playing fantastic Overwatch. They're such a fun team to watch. They're playing the wacky comps, and it's working for them. So keep it up. Right below them, the Chengdu Hunters. Chengdu, don't know what it is about you. If I had my way, I'd put them like over here in their own little bracket, but because I have to put them with the rest of these guys, their record is kind of shaky. Again, they're playing a lot of the Asian teams. They're playing all the Asian teams repeatedly, so eventually the Achilles heel I've mentioned about the Hunters in some of our casts is that, once a team figures you out, you're done for. You're going to keep losing because Chengdu just doesn't adapt. And if they don't adapt, I mean, that kind of works against them, but if they went over to the Pacific team or the Atlantic teams and started doing pretty good over there, I'd say, yeah, put them above, maybe top 10. But they just aren't, so they deserve to be here below Paris. And the rest of these teams, I think, are going to kind of stay the same. Houston playing really, really good recently, but still not in the top spots where I'd want to place them. And London, we haven't seen any of them for a very, very long time, so I can't put them at the bottom, though, because that's kind of like not mirroring the accomplishments that they've had. So I'll respect them enough to put them top 15 teams, or top, I think he's 16th right here, but the rest of my rankings kind of justified. These bottom 4 teams, I think, make a lot of sense when you step back and think about it, and the top 3, 4, 5 teams also look pretty right. Again, these middle teams, a little bit harder to rank, so that's probably where I'm going to get the most fire for them, but I'm pretty confident in what I've decided here, which teams are doing good, which teams have dropped a little bit, and it makes sense in the end. So thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Spherno, and again, these were power rankings for going into week 13, post week 12, and I'll be coming to you guys with a new power ranking every week, without fail. That will not change. And I have a lot of fun making them, and I hope you guys have a lot of fun watching them. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like, comment your own power rankings. What do you guys think I should have done different? Which teams should I have swapped? Where should some of these teams have gone? And make sure to subscribe so that we can keep putting out these videos, and so you guys can keep seeing them. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.